Good day, Heartway. Welcome to another Heartway at Home experience. Listen, my name is Cliff, and we are so glad you guys tuned in to another wonderful day. Pastor Danny has an amazing message for us. But before we do that, got a couple of announcements. So our kids are starting back up in March, so stay tuned. We would love to have you guys here in person at Heartway, and we can't wait to see you, and we can't wait to just get a chance to love on the kiddos. Listen, we also have baptisms that are happening today. If God is nudging on your heart to take that next step, please let us know. Shoot us a message, whether on email or on our social media outlet. We want to be there for you through this journey that God has you on. And lastly, we could not do any of the wonderful things that you see us doing, impacting our community and our world, without the giving of your heart and of your resources. So thank you to those that have partnered with us for reoccurring giving, and we look forward to continuing growing that relationship with what God is doing in your life as you pray to see what God wants you to do in this season, coming along beside Heartway and impacting our world. We love you. Sit back and enjoy this message, and we love you. We can't wait to see you. Take care.
Good morning, Heartway. How we doing? Doing all right? Waking up? Need some cafecito this morning? Turn to your neighbor, tell him, bring me coffee next week, please. I need it. Come on, let's stand together. There is a river where goodness flows. There is a fountain that drowns sorrows. There is an ocean, it's deeper than fear. The blood is rising, rising. There is a current stirring deep inside. It's overflowing from the heart of God. The flood of heaven crashing over us. The tide is rising, rising. Come on. Bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. Bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. We come alive in the river. 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 How are we? Hands up like this. Come on. There is a current stirring deep inside. It's overflowing from the heart of God. The flood of heaven crashing over us. The tide is rising, rising. Sing bursting. Oh, bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. Bursting, bursting up from the ground. We feel it now. We come alive in the river. 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 Come on. If you're getting baptized later, this is gonna be your anthem. We come alive in the river. Woo! Come on, break it down. Break open prison doors. Set all the captives free. Spring up a well. Spring up a well. Spring up a well in me. Say, nothing can stop this joy. Come on. We're dancing in the street. Anybody got some joy this morning? Spring up a well. Spring up a well. Spring up a well in me. Oh, yeah. We come alive in the river. We come alive in the river. street. Oh, spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. Oh, spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. Oh, say, spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. Spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. Yeah, come on. Highway, you guys came ready to worship this morning. That's awesome. I like it. I like when I can hear your beautiful voices singing like a little bit over the music. If you're afraid of singing, listen, I know what you sound like already. I've been here a few weeks. God knows what you sound like, so don't worry about it. Just lift it up. It's all beautiful anyway. Come on. I've scaled all the highest of mountains, and I've stood at the edge of their peaks, but I still couldn't see to the edge of your love for me. And I walked on the wildest of waters, and I've sunk to the depths of the sea, but I still couldn't fathom the depths of your love for me. Amen. Canyons wide, oceans deep, can't contain all your love for me. No matter how high or far I reach, there's no end to your love for me. Hands like this. Give it, come on. I wrestled a leaf in the valley, and I barely hung on through the night. But just when I thought it was darkness, the sun began to rise. Come on. Canyons wide, oceans deep, can't contain all your love for me. No matter how high or far I reach, there's no end to your love for me. Come on, Taylor. So I don't know about you, but sometimes in the morning I wake up and I don't feel like, oh man, like I understand it all. Like God doesn't wake me up with like a very loud, Jenny, good morning. I mean, I don't hear the voice of God like that. If you do, see me after the service because we got a lot to talk about. But I have to sometimes wake up and intentionally like, all right, I'm getting out of bed. I'm gonna make the best of this day. I gotta look around and I have to decide this today and every day that I'm gonna see God in front of me, around me, in the people that I meet today. I have to make those decisions. And oftentimes these words, these songs and these words are the way that I can really like tune in and say like, wow, this is what it is. This is what it's about. This is what it's talking about. Where could I run that God wouldn't chase after me? Where could I hide? He already knows where I am. He already took the place for me. Like these words are become the anthem of the morning. And so if you're having a day where you just woke up, you're still a little tired, we need some coffee, we gotta get there, I encourage you right now to just like let the words sink into your heart, sink into your spirit. You can just let the music play. You can close your eyes, you can put your hands up, you can take any posture of worship that feels right to your body this morning, but just let the Spirit flow through you. That's the point of worship today. Just let it flow all the way through your spirit. Where could I run that you wouldn't run after me? And how could I fall? But you already took the fall for me. Beyond the stars to the very breath I breathe, there's no end to your love for me. Sing it again, sing. See, where could I run that you wouldn't run after me? Just declare it this morning. How could I fall when you already took the fall for me? Beyond the stars to the very breath I breathe, there's no end to your love for me. Come on, sing. Oh, canyons wide, oceans deep, there's no end to your love for me. No matter how high or far I reach, there's no end to your love for me. Sing, canyons wide, oceans deep, there's no end to your love for me. No matter how high or far I reach, there's no end to your love for me. Your love for me. If you agree with that this morning, come on, put your hands together. Amen. Amen, everybody. Thanks so much for worshiping with us. You may be seated.
Good morning, everyone. So great to see all of your beautiful faces. I'm excited to share with you all in this time of centering prayer. But before we begin, I want to share a little story of something that happened to me recently. So as many of you know, Danny and I practice yoga. We've actually I just realized that we've been practicing yoga for like 2 years consistently with Gabby. And I had a moment in one of the more recent classes where very often you're practicing. If you've ever taken yoga or Gabby's class, it's not that easy. Like, you really gotta breathe. Like, if they tell you to breathe, like, you really have to breathe through all these uncomfortable poses. So it was this specific day where I remember, so normally I'm doing all the poses, but I'm waiting for the end. So at the end, it's like your gift where you get to meditate. And this specific class, I remember I set an intention of being still. So I remember the entire class, I was able to be in each and every moment, present to each and every moment. And I was so present to every moment that I didn't even need the meditation time. I remember we got to the meditation time and I was like, I just meditated that whole time through all these uncomfortable moments. So that just reminded me of how that's like life. We need to be reminded to be present in every single moment. We need to breathe through everything and just be present. That's what meditation is. It's a way of life. It teaches us to be with God in every moment and see God, like Jenny said, in everyone, in everything, and being in that present moment. So today, I want to remind you, and I want our meditation to be about you stepping into your truest power, and that is just your simple being, without any attachments, because so often we're searching for that meditation time, that perfect time to be still and be with God. But we can be with God right here, right now, in every single moment, in the hardest of moments. That's when it matters the most. So I want us to begin with our eyes closed, get into a comfortable position. We're going to start off by taking 3 deep breaths. We're going to go ahead and inhale. Go ahead and exhale. We're going to take another deep breath. Go ahead and inhale. Go ahead and exhale. Go ahead and inhale. Go ahead and exhale. Go ahead and release any tension in the shoulders. Be present to how you are feeling in this very moment. I want you to envision a doorway. But before you reach the doorway, I want you to envision that you are carrying all of these weights. Weights of shame, weights of doubt, weights of fear, weights of anxiety, weight of unworthiness. And one by one, I want you to release them. And as you approach this door, this is the door, the opening, it's an opening of your spiritual heart. And as you enter this door, I want you to envision that you turn on a light. As you turn on this light, I want you to feel as if you've released everything that you have attached to, released everything that doesn't serve you, and I want you to see the beautiful light that is within you. Your power isn't in all of the things that you do or you say or who you are. It's in your simple being. It's in being in this very present moment. We can only see that light when we release all of these attachments. We can then see God. What we're searching for is already within you. It's right here in this very moment. And you can't be in the present moment if you're leaving it. So if and when thoughts arise, let them flow. Do not attach, simply observe. Become the witnesser behind these thoughts. This peace that you experience is God. It is the very light that is within you. And it's available to you always. You just must see it and choose it. God is always waiting for you with open arms, ready to embrace you and turn that light on. But we must let go of all that doesn't serve us. As we take this next moment of silence, I want you to pay close attention to your breath. Rest in God's presence. You are so worthy that this is all that God wants of you. He wants your heart. He wants your soul. He wants you in silence. God doesn't need anything from you. You already have God within you. You just have to see it. Be reminded that you are always God's child, no matter what. We're going to take 3 more deep breaths. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you all. Wow. Good morning, Heartway. How we doing? Happy Sunday. So good to see you. I'm always so grateful, and I always look forward to gathering together with each and every one of you on a weekly basis to talk about the things that matter most, the things that truly make life worth meaningful. And today, although this message may appear to be a little bit morbid, I do believe that the insights that will come through will be impactful for you. And so if you're not used to having the kind of conversation that we're going to be having today, and if it makes you a little bit uncomfortable, just hang in there for a little while. Because the point of this entire discussion that we will be having today is about really helping you to see the immense value and worth of this life that you have been gifted with. Now, I absolutely love the role that I have been called to play in this world as a pastor. A pastor is a spiritual companion, someone who cares for the souls of others. And when people give me the privilege and the opportunity to, I get to journey with people right alongside of them through all of the ups and downs of their life. And it's a beautiful thing. But it's kind of like one moment is a happy moment, the next moment is a sad moment. Like one day I'll be doing a baby dedication. The next day I'm with somebody on their bedside right before they're about to transition from this life to the next. One week I'm doing a wedding. Next week I'm doing a funeral. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the gym working out with my guy Ryan. 10 in the morning, I get a phone call from a family that was a part of Heartway when we first started. We were doing Wednesday nights in 2015, and they lived in South Florida for about a year, and then they left mid-2016. But they were coming to Heartway regularly. And this beautiful couple had a daughter who has this very rare disease that there's no cure for or diagnosis for. And every day she would struggle and have different episodes. And this was really something that was difficult for this family and for this young woman. Well, I get a phone call from this family telling me, this was like on a Tuesday morning, that their daughter was on life support. And they were about to pull the plug. And they want me to pray with them in this last moment of her life. So I'm outside of the gym with my AirPods on, sitting on this bench while people are coming in and out. Everybody's laughing, having fun talking. And I'm here praying with this family in this last moment of this woman's life. What an honor that they would even trust me with that. You know, as a chaplain, when I worked at the Miami Rescue Mission, oftentimes I would be the one who would have to bring the news to certain people that someone they loved or someone they were close to just passed and transitioned. There would be times when people wouldn't receive that news very well. And here I am just kind of there, trying to offer love, empathy, presence, compassion. But there's not much that you can do and say in those kind of moments, right? Like, what do you say? Last year, in the middle of last year, I get a phone call from a young woman who I hadn't talked to in years. I guess she's been following along on Facebook. And for some reason, she was in the darkest moment of her life, and my name dropped into her mind. And she experienced this horrific tragedy. The man that she married was not the man that she thought she married. And he ended up taking his life. And she felt like taking her life. She felt like she had no reason to live anymore. And I get the phone call. So I go drive over there to this young woman's home. And I'm there with her family. And like a mantra, she kept repeating out loud, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. I remember leaving there, and this was the first time that I had ever been in a situation like that. I've been in a lot of situations. This is the first time I was in a situation like that. And I remember leaving there, and I had to say to myself, God, if this woman takes her life, it's not on me. And it's not my fault. Because I was already feeling some sort of insecurity about the fact that I didn't know if I came across to her, if I was actually able to help her, if my words were able to have any sort of impact. And I doubt my words had an impact. What I later came to realize is that my presence had an impact. God's presence in and through me had an impact. And thank God that she ended up not taking her life. But I, in that moment, had to come to the realization, if this happens, it's not on me. You know, I've been in these kind of situations. I've been to more funerals in the last 10 years than most people go in their entire lifetime. And every time that I'm placed in these kind of situations, I am confronted with the fragility and the delicacy of life. And those of us here in this room or listening online who are firefighters or police officers or nurses, you all know firsthand, you can probably attest to what I'm about to say, but what I have come to discover being placed in these situations over and over and over again is that there is nothing that can teach you more about life than death can. Absolutely nothing in this world. I was 21 years old when I got ordained as a pastor, and I was already shadowing a more experienced pastor in a funeral home as he was conducting things and working with the family. I remember one time I went to a funeral that I was conducting, and the dad lost his son. You know, that's rough. I've been in several of those situations where parents lost their child. And this guy was angry. He was just yelling at the top of his lungs. And then I come in the picture and someone's introducing me to him, and he said, this preacher better not say something stupid. This preacher better not mess up. I said, oh my God, here we go. But look at what the scriptures say about the fragility of life. I love how the wisdom writer puts it in the book of Ecclesiastes. Life, lovely while it lasts, is soon over. Life as we know it, precious and beautiful, ends. The body is put back in the same ground it came from. The spirit returns to God who first breathed it. Genesis chapter 3:19, I love these beautiful words. These words are actually uttered over people on Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is a Christian holy day. Maybe if you grew up Catholic or in certain denominations, you have participated in Ash Wednesday. It actually just passed this last week. You'll have a minister who will put ashes on somebody's forehead in the shape of a cross, and then they will utter these words over the people. For you were made from dust, and to dust you will return. You come from the dust. Remember that. And to the dust you will return. Remember that. What's fascinating and what most people don't recognize is that within Christian spirituality, reflecting on death is actually considered to be a spiritual practice. So spiritual practice is prayer, meditation, spiritual reading of sacred texts, going out in nature, coming to church, reflecting on death. Within Christian spirituality, this is one among many different practices. Spiritual practices that are meant to invigorate your life and make you come alive, make your spirit come alive on the inside. In the Latin, this spiritual practice is referred to as memento mori. Memento mori literally means remember your mortality, or remember you must die. remember you must die. What's very cool is that throughout Christian history, if you look at a lot of the art that has been created, a lot of the art that contains pictures and photos of different saints throughout the ages have actually contained different symbols of death. Particularly, a lot of these paintings or icons have had skulls in them, which is kind of odd, but I want to show you some of these. Okay, look at this. This is a man by the name of Saint Jerome. He translated the Bible from the original Greek and Hebrew into Latin. He was the first person to ever do that. And this translation became known as the Vulgate. And the Roman Catholic Church made that their official translation of the Bible many, many centuries ago. And this guy was responsible for that. So he's given a lot of esteem within Christianity and Christian history. And tradition has it that in his place of study, on his desk, St. Jerome would keep a human skull to remind him of his mortality. And after this guy did it, there were many other saints who kind of picked up that habit. And they kept a memento mori object in their place of study. So they would either have a real human skull, which is creepy as heck, or they would have a painting of a skull, or they would have like a sculpture of a skull. Some people would just put flowers. That's kind of my style. Whenever Emily allows me to have an office, because she takes over any extra room that we have in the house, it just belongs to Emily. So whenever I have a little corner that I can call an office, I'll put flowers on there. And the reason why is because the flowers die so quickly, right? So to have those there is a reminder that our life is fleeting, that it's here one moment, that it's gone the next. This next photo is a photo of St. Francis. He is very well known within Christianity because of his connection with God through nature. St. Francis would refer to the sun and the moon as brother sun and sister moon. And so St. Francis was very connected to God in and through all of creation and nature. Well, in this picture, we see St. Francis gazing at a cross. And do you see what's holding up the cross? I know it's a small photo, but there's a skull that's kind of holding up the cross there. This is from the 15th century, a painting from the 15th century. Look at this next one. This is St. Catherine of Siena. She was known as a mystic and an activist. She was a reformer in the church. Here she is. She's holding a cross. She's reading the scriptures. And holding up the Bible is a skull. This is from the 16th century. Look at this next photo. This one is a painting that is actually found in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. You can see this there. Now, I know that you definitely can't see it from where you're sitting, but in the bottom here, you see Jesus, and then there's the two thieves next to him, the Roman soldiers, Mary and some of the other disciples weeping. At the bottom of Jesus' cross, there's a skull in this picture. And the reason why is because legend and tradition says that the place where Jesus was crucified is where Adam's body was buried, the first human. And in Christian theology, Jesus is considered to be the new Adam, the one who shows us what it means to be truly and fully human. And so we see that little skull there in the bottom. Another interesting little fact. The place where Jesus was hung on the cross is referred to as Calvary. Calvary in the Latin is calva, which means bald head or skull. In the Aramaic, the place where Jesus was crucified is called Golgotha. Golgotha literally means place of the skull. Why? Well, because Golgotha was a hill where the Romans would crucify a whole bunch of people. And so obviously there were skeletons and skulls everywhere. But alongside of that, the reason why the place of Jesus' crucifixion is referred to as the place of the skull is because the hill where Jesus was crucified on actually kind of looks like a skull. So if you can see this photo, this is in Jerusalem. The hill of Calvary has these two little caves in them that look like eye sockets. And then you have the little nose under there. Can you guys kind of tell? So this is the place of the skull. So what is this crazy fascination that Christians have had with skulls? Well, anytime an artist would portray a saint or a theologian with a skull, the intention behind that was to use that as a symbol of that person's wisdom. Because just as many different wise people from many different traditions, the mystics and the monastics from the Christian tradition have come to see that there is a deeply embedded connection between reflecting on death and becoming wise. Because death is inevitable. Death comes to everyone. Death arrives in a moment that we are not expecting. We have no idea when we're going to die. Even if we're very young or if we're very old, it can come whenever it comes. And one of the most harmful teachings that religion in the West has handed down to us is that death is unnatural, that death is bad, that death is a curse, that death is an enemy. And so we are afraid of death. We avoid death, but death is something that must be faced. Death is something to be embraced. Death is something to reconcile with, because to resist death is to resist life. Life and death are not two separate things. Life and death are two sides of the same coin. Life culminates in death. Death is the ultimate flowering of life. And there is no life without death. And there is no death without life. They feed into one another. From the moment you are born, you're already moving towards your death. So to live with the conscious awareness of that, most people don't even want to think about that. That's how my mama is. Oh, why are you guys talking about that? Because me and my dad like to have these kind of morbid conversations. Mom, can you guys stop talking about that? Oh my God. We don't even want to think about this. But to live in the conscious awareness of this, to sit with this reality, has the potential to radically transform the way that you perceive and understand reality, to the point where it will totally change the way you orient yourself in this world. Changes how you see. It changes how you perceive. It makes life so much more meaningful, because whatever is your attitude towards death will also be your attitude towards life. If you are afraid of death, you will live in fear in life. If you are open to death, you will be open to life in all of its complexity, in all of its possibility, in all of its difficulty, in all of its order and disorder and chaos and beauty and bliss and horror. You will be open. So there is no such thing as living life fully without embracing death totally. Which is why one young student walked up to his teacher and said, "What does it mean to be wise?" And the response that he got was, "To live as if you were going to die the next moment." That's what it means to be wise, to live as if you were going to die the next moment, because how do you know that you won't? Can you really, really know for sure? And if this was your last few moments of life, wouldn't you want to enjoy it? Wouldn't you want to experience it to the full? Can you see how living like this, as tough as it is, can actually open you up to an entirely new dimension of life? When you begin to understand how fragile and how delicate life is, you stop taking things for granted. Do we have any science nerds in the house, or is it just me? Kind of. Okay, a few of you are interested in the fact that human beings are doing some incredible things right now, like putting a rover on Mars. Okay. I follow NASA on my Instagram, and we actually have somebody who listens from far away who is a scientist, right? You have a friend, Millie, that's your friend. Your niece. See? Shout out to her, because she listens to all of us. She's going to hear this. Now, I follow NASA on Instagram. And yesterday, I see a picture of this rover that we put on Mars, and it's showing you a picture of Mars. And all it is emptiness, just like dirt and rocks. Now, Mars is an entire planet, big old planet, nothing on it. You realize this? All this space. Is Mars bigger than Earth? I should have done that homework. All right, but it's still big. All right? It's a whole goddamn planet. And there's nothing on it. Think about the fact that there are billions and billions of those planets in our entire universe. Some double, quadruple, triple the size of ours. And as far as we know, there's nothing on it. Either way is crazy, right? Like if there is life on other planets, crazy. If there is no life on other planets and we're literally the only ones floating in space right now, crazy. So now can you understand why Albert Einstein said there's only two ways to live in this world, as if nothing were a miracle or as if everything were a miracle? Because here in this vast universe of just nothingness, we're literally on paradise. Look at the life. Look at the life. Look at the life. Look at the life. We just have to open up our eyes. Look at what the scriptures say in the book of James. You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. Everybody's so cocky about all their plans and stuff. You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Gone. You are a mist. You are a vapor. You are a vapor. And so are the people you love. And so are your kids. And so are your friends. Come on, Danny, you are so encouraging today. Good. Keep on going, man. But you don't even have to start with them. Just start with yourself. Face your own mortality. Be with that for a little while. Let it teach you what it has to teach you. Let it show you what life truly is. Let that sink into the depth of your being. That you are mortal. That you are here one moment and gone the next, and that you don't know when that time will come. In the first century Roman world in which Jesus lived, anytime the emperors would go out to battle and they would win battle and they would gain new territory and they just had this wonderful victory, they would go back to their own town and village and they would celebrate with a victory parade. Huge parade would be thrown for the emperor. Now, the emperor was literally considered to be a son of God. This was the representation of God on earth for the people of that time. And they would praise the emperor, and they would worship the emperor, and they would bow down in submission to the emperor. So imagine being a human being, receiving all of this glory. Tradition says that many of these emperors, the wisest among them, would make sure that there was either a soldier or a slave standing behind them during those victory parades, constantly repeating the phrase, memento mori. Memento mori. The point being, while you're receiving all of this glory, while you're basking in all of your accomplishments, while everybody is talking well of you and cheering you and telling you how great of a human being you are, remember that you are destined for the dust. So many of us take so much pride in our accomplishments, in our achievements, in our career path, and all of the things that we're doing. We're advancing, we're growing, we're doing this, we're doing that. Look at this empire that I'm building for myself. And we have all of our fans, oh, you're so amazing. Oh, you're so amazing. The richest person in the world, the poorest person in the world, will both end up in the same place. the most accomplished human being in this world and the least accomplished human being in this world will both end up in the same grave. So what are you living for and why? What matters to you and why? Some will say, well, I want to build all this stuff, but it's not for me. It's for my legacy. Well, I have bad news for you. Everybody has a mixed legacy. You are the bad guy in somebody's story. So yeah, sure, people will say great things about you, but there will also be people who will trash you. And there will be people when you're gone who will tell your story in a way that has nothing to do with the way you would have told your story. And so what are you living for and why? Well, I'm building something so that I can give it to the next generation. Well, they can squander it. Everything that you work so hard for to give to the next line can be gone in a moment. What are you living for and why? It is impossible to face death and not reprioritize things in your life and not come back to the question, what is important? What really matters and why? It's not the stuff. It's not the accomplishments. It's not the achievements. It's not the reputation. It's not the influence. It's being completely and totally immersed in this present moment. To be in this moment without carrying the baggage of the past, without worrying about the future, leaving the past in the hands of God's mercy, giving the future to God's providence, and living in complete abandonment to God in the present moment. Because this is the only moment that you have. That's what it means to be fully alive. That is what matters. Are you here now paying attention? Are you awake to God right in front of you, in you, through you, around you? Are you living from a space of open-hearted acceptance of what is? Total abandonment to God in this present moment. I used to read when Jesus would say to his disciples, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to drink. And I'm like, this is kind of extreme, bro. Don't worry about what I'm going to eat. You know what my name is? Danny Prada. I already planned out. I've been bragging to people about the fact that tomorrow I have a friend who's taking me to Bolé and he's paying for me. I literally was bragging about that yesterday to somebody on, man, I'm so happy this dude is taking me to lunch. He's paying for me at Bolé. So don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to drink. Don't worry about the clothes that you're going to wear. Don't worry about where you're going to sleep. What kind of a human being is this? A human being who has totally abandoned themselves to the presence of God in the present moment. No past, no future, just here, just now. Is that a possibility for us? It is if we're willing to take that leap of faith, give ourselves completely and totally to God. What good is it if your body is alive but your soul is dead? So to live in a soulful way is to live in love, to live in gratitude, to live in openness, to be in touch with the depth of life. Way too many of us, we're just stuck on the surface. We live superficial, meaningless lives. Death is the portal that gets you in touch with this eternal dimension of life, this transcendent dimension of life, which is always now. Look at this quote from a Catholic writer who wrote a book called Abandonment to Divine Providence, and it's a classic Christian spiritual text. He puts it well. He says, we have but one duty: to abandon ourselves to God's will, trust Him in everything, and live in the present moment. One duty. One duty. So if you're here, you're getting some hardcore teaching, because spirituality and having God in your life is pointless if this is one thing among many other things. This must be the all-absorbing thing if you want to have peace, if you want to be happy, if you want to experience life to the full. This has nothing to do with obligation. Do what you want. But I'm assuming if you're here, it's because you're searching for something more. Right? And if you want to find the more, it begins with this full devotion, wholehearted absorption in this one duty. This becomes it. Everything else becomes subservient to this. To abandon ourselves to God's will. Transforming your will into God's will. What God wills for me is what I will for me. That is total alignment. That is total power and strength. What God wills for me is what I will for me. What does God will for me? What is now? That's power that is available to you. And the mind will chatter, right? And give you all the excuses and tell you why all of this isn't the way that it's supposed to be. And just let it talk. Let it chatter until it gets so tired that it shuts up. As far as you're concerned, you are here, you are now, in love, ready to give yourself in abandonment to God. The reason why death is so difficult for so many of us is because it doesn't make sense, right? Like when death knocks on our door or the door of someone that we love, it always comes as a surprise. We're not ready. And then when we try and rationalize it and comprehend it with our mind, we can't. You can't. How could this have happened? How could it have happened like this? What makes death so difficult is its incomprehensibility. And the same thing that makes death so difficult is also what makes it such a gift and blessing. It's incomprehensibility. Because when you can't make sense of a situation anymore, all that's left for you to do is to live it. We always try and rationalize and comprehend things because we want to control everything. But when that's not possible anymore because life said, here it is. And death is one of those things where it's just like, here it is. You're trying to rationalize and control something? Here. When we can't control anything anymore, all we can do is accept life as it is. All we can do is let life be what it is. We're forced there by death. Death forces you to confront and accept reality. And in forcing you to confront and accept reality, it's actually teaching you how to live. Death contains the keys to life. You just have to sit with it long enough to allow it to teach you. I want to read to you the last words that Jesus spoke when he was on the cross before he took his final breath. Listen to these words. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. The same way Jesus died is the same way Jesus lived. In complete and total abandonment to God. He knew his life was not his own. He did not take ownership over his life. I am giving my spirit to you. Into your hands, I am committing my spirit. You are not your own. Your life is not your own. Your breath is not your own. Your house is not your own. Your kids are not your own. Your money is not your own. Everything belongs to God and everything is given to you for just a moment. And eventually we got to give it back. The secret to finding peace and happiness in life is to give it back willingly before death forces you to. To let it all go willingly before it is taken from you. To recognize that it's not mine. So I'm not holding on too tightly to any of this stuff anymore. If it comes and it goes, it's fine. It's not mine. How do you lose someone you love when they were never yours to begin with? How do you lose your life when you recognize that your life is not your own? Life includes death. Death gives birth to new life together. That's what the cross represents. Death and resurrection belong together. Death brings about resurrection. Together. So it's not something we have to fear. It's not something we have to treat as an enemy. It is a gift that shows to us that our life is not our own. Nothing belongs to us. I'll wrap up with this one little story about a wise man who walked into the king's palace. And he was very well known in his town, and so the guards just let him in, and he went right to the throne where the king was seated. And he said, "King, good to see you. I'm looking for a place to spend the night today in this hotel. Do you have any room for me?" And the king got offended. He said, "This hotel? Brother, you are in my palace. This is my palace. This is not a hotel. You can't just come in here and ask to spend the night somewhere. This is my palace." And the wise man said, "Really? Who did this belong to before you had it?" And he said, "My father, but he's dead." Then the wise man said, "Well, who did it belong to before your father?" He said, "My grandfather, but now he's dead too." And the wise man said, "Okay, wait a second. So you're telling me this is a place where people come, live for a while, and then go? Remind me again how this isn't a hotel?" You see what he's doing here? He's teaching the king a lesson because this king is very possessive over his stuff. This is my wealth. This is my kingdom. This is my palace. And the wise man is trying to show him, no. Nothing is yours. This wealth is not yours. This palace is not yours. Nothing is permanent. And the quicker you let it go, the quicker you will experience peace and happiness in your life. Because when you're holding on to things very tightly, nobody better take it from me. But then it gets taken from you. And then what? So might as well it's not mine even to begin with. There's good relationship advice too. Look at what Jeremiah says. Look at what Jeremiah says. I love this prayer. "Lord, I know that our lives don't really belong to us. None of us have control over our own life. So if you need some encouragement today, here's my message. Relax. Chill out. Nothing is under control." No, really. Just relax. You might as well just chill and enjoy the ride because nothing is under control. Not yours, at least. So may this be a reminder to you of your mortality. And that the quicker and the sooner you come to terms with the fact that you are here one moment and gone the next, the more meaningful your life will be. Just sit with it. Sink into this. Go outside one day, pour yourself a glass of wine, and look out at the stars. And look at the moon. I told Emily, I want to put a little bird feeder outside the house so we can get visited by birds and that's God's visitation. Why not? You can make fun of me. That's God's visitation. Emily hates the squirrels, but I love the squirrels when they come. It's beautiful. Just enjoy this because you may not have it tomorrow. Let me pray for you. God, we thank you that we are finite, but you are infinite. May we be reminded of our mortality, that we are not here forever, that we are but a mist. And may this reality help us to sink deeper into the eternal dimension of life. We give ourselves in complete and total abandonment to you in this present moment because this is all there is. Yesterday is just a thought in our head. Tomorrow is just a thought in our head. Now is all there is. And so, God, our one duty is to completely abandon ourselves to you, to give ourselves over to you, to commit our hands into your spirit, and to be here now. Help us to cherish our lives, to value the lives of those that we love the most. Even as we interact with our loved ones, may we remember that they too are mortal. May we not become haughty and think more highly of ourselves than we should as we go through life accomplishing things. Because the most accomplished and the least accomplished go to the same place. Death is the great equalizer. But we are so grateful that through you we have conquered death. We have overcome death. And that we can look forward to resurrection life in Christ. Amen. Thank you guys for being with us. Wow, you survived a heavy one. So what did you guys learn at church today? Oh, we talked about skulls and death. I love you. Thank you for being on this ride with me. Hey, real quick before you go, we're going to do a little baptism after service. If you want to stick around, we've got 4 people getting baptized. We're going to head over to the pool and make that happen. We'd love to have you. If not, we'll see you next weekend. Love you.